SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Middays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. Middays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Middays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music on this
Hump Day.
Oh, yeah, your buddy, I say that with tongue-in-cheek, Zoran Mamdani. He is praising ICE protesters in his home city of New York. This is how crap gets out of control. When you got people out. Now, look, they have a right to protest. I get it. But I would argue that this kind of rhetoric coming from an elected official, that truly does incite what can be bad things. And all we heard for the last 5 years is how it was President Trump that incited the insurrection in the Capitol on January 6th. What are these people doing? These are the same people that balked about that, right?
And I'm pretty certain that they were the same people that showed up outside Walz's office to protest yesterday.
I saw that as well.
Was that an insurrection?
Exactly. Absolutely. Saw that as well. Now, Mamdani has called for the abolition of ICE.
Well, of course he has.
Let's be honest. They want wide open borders, always have, because it confers to them political power. Plain and simple. That's what it's all about. These people are addicted to the drug of politics. And I'm not saying that that's unique to the people on that side of the aisle. Don't get me wrong there. But this is ridiculous. Dozens of demonstrators arrested in Manhattan Tuesday evening. They occupied the lobby of a hotel. They say that federal immigration agents were staying there, literally lodging there while they're doing their duty from the commander-in-chief. More than 100 people crammed into the hotel. It's just a Hilton Garden Inn, by the way. Disrupting a business. They don't care. That's the other piece of this that they just are oblivious to. What happened in Minneapolis and all the protests?
They're not oblivious to it. It's intentional.
Well, that saddens me, I guess. Probably the better.
The more mayhem and chaos you can cause for the more people, the more attention you get.
Perhaps the better way, maybe, Rhino, to describe it is, you're right. They're not oblivious to it. They don't care, but I could also say they really can't connect those dots. I really don't know that they get, well, that actually affects some of the people you're trying to protect.
Yeah, it's the ultimate irony of the modern liberal is the party of empathy and tolerance and acceptance really only cares about their own emotions.
100%.
They will completely ruin your day if it makes them feel better about themselves.
You've said it, and it's stuck with me. I'm with you. It's all about your dang feelings. I completely agree with that. But think about this. It's the billionaires who are selfish, right? They're the ones who are egregious. While they're not out in the streets protesting, producing zero value for society, these are the people that are creating the very tools you're using to carry out your misguided activities. It's incredible. It's ridiculous. And this kind of crap harms all of us. It really does. When we're so consumed as a country and have so many resources just dedicated to managing these situations, this is not how you build an economically thriving, safe quality of life. It's quite the opposite. But yet they're quick to jump all over. The CEOs, it's their problem. Oh, my gosh. It really aggravates me. But he's out praising these demonstrators who were arrested in his city of Manhattan. Look, he is what he told us he was. There's no confusion about that. And even after he and the president met, maybe there was a kind of a little shade of hope. But I would say those hopes have been dashed. This guy is a dang communist. I don't think you can deny it. Very frustrating. There are lots of calls, of course, to impeach Kristi Noem, Homeland Security Secretary. Some are saying she should resign. Hakeem Jeffries, he's the top member of the House on the Democrat side of the aisle. He's calling for her impeachment. I don't know if that's a little strong.
As much dislike as I have for what she has done or hasn't done, does it rise to the level of impeachment?
Agree. Now, the president says he's sticking with her. And
I think that's a bad call.
Well, and I do too, but I started thinking about that. From a political perspective, because you have to inject that into the equation here, does it make sense?
You could keep her in her position. Just tell her to quit playing DHS Barbie.
Well, he's sending in Tom Homan, I would say in her stead to a great extent, to take over in Minneapolis, which is just a powder keg. So I'm thinking maybe he's being advised, potentially. I'm just speculating here that, yeah, Mr. President, we need to make a change here. And he's going to wait a while. Let the dust settle, not react to make it appear that, okay, I did this because of Hakeem Jeffries. That's my thinking. You know what I'm saying. It's a timing thing more than anything else. So, but on the other hand, how much more can we endure? I don't want to see any more press conferences like that one we saw Sunday. I just thought that was bad. I thought that was inconsistent, incongruent with what people saw with their own eyes. So it's something to think about, for sure. And then, one of the things, Rhino, that comes up a lot that I've been kind of lukewarm on, and that is the prohibition of trading individual stocks by members of Congress. It comes up a lot. No secret there. And a lot of people feel like that these guys have access to information, and sometimes they do, that the rest of the world doesn't have. And that's kind of the rule, the law now is if you use information that you obtained in your position as a member of Congress that's not generally available, essentially, the general public doesn't know about it, and you trade on that basis, you're in violation of the law. So I got to talk about...
Correct me if I'm wrong, though. As long as they report it, nothing's done.
Right. That's right. And they are responsible for reporting it.
And if they're late reporting it, it's like a $200 fine.
I agree.
You could make millions on your trade with insider info. And if you just, oopsie, I didn't report it, it's a couple $100.
That's exactly right. And you're right. It's very loosely enforced.
So it's kind of like a parking ticket for a billionaire.
Correct.
It's the price it costs to park there.
So where I'm going with this
Laws be damned.
I agree. So where I'm going with this is, and this doesn't happen very often. I've pointed this out, that I think there was a time frame in this country where, yeah, these folks did have access to a lot of information the rest of us didn't. That could, in fact, have a major impact on the price of a public company stock. defense contractors are the main one that comes to mind, right? You get wind in your work at Congress that it looks like they're going to get awarded some big contract, and you go trade accordingly, and you profit because you had this information ahead of time. That doesn't happen a whole lot anymore, but there is a case. Just happened. Representative Kevin Hearn, he's a business person from Oklahoma, a Republican. He represents Oklahoma's 1st congressional district, been there since 2018. So, yesterday I was talking about United Healthcare and how they had a terrible report. And then after we went off the air, CMS announced that they're locking in some of the Medicare reimbursements. And that's also wreaked havoc on the health insurance industry because it means, your costs are going up, but you're not going to get paid as much to reimburse. It just complicates it. So those two, United Healthcare's bad report plus CMS's Medicare policy, caused the health insurance stocks to sell off big time yesterday. Oh, but Representative Kevin Hearn in Oklahoma, he dumped $500,000 worth of United Healthcare stock 2 weeks ago. We're coming right back with the National Weather Service from the Element Wealth Studio.
Hey, this is Bob.
This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
The talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
We're rolling. Hit it. Go. Play it.
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. We welcome now Mike Edmonston, Senior Meteorologist with the National Weather Service. Hey, Mike.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing great. So we have gotten ourselves through this Storm Fern that wreaked havoc across the Magnolia State, of course. Someone from the NWS was on with us Monday giving us an update. But looks like we're set for more cold weather moving into Mississippi this weekend.
Yes, there's another, we call it potent cold weather system, a low pressure system that will be dropping across the area Friday into Friday night. At this time, we're not advertising any wintry precip with it. It looks pretty dry, but can't rule out if you're up in the middle of the night on Friday night, maybe a few flurries or something like that would probably be dropping out of the air. But the biggest impacts we're going to see is wind chills and very cold temperatures. Right now we're advertising a dangerous cold weekend, and we'll most likely have cold weather advisories in place or even extreme cold warnings again. And that's similar to what we saw on Monday and Tuesday morning of last couple of days ago. We're expecting wind chills almost to average in the -2 degrees Fahrenheit to +7 at times. The coldest temperatures look like they're going to be across the Delta again, maybe across the Highway 82 corridor, and the morning lows will be in the teens and 20s again. So, and that's both Saturday morning and Sunday morning. So this looks like a long duration event, and the highs on Saturday are expected to remain below freezing, at least down to the Highway 84 corridor. Maybe somebody or a few sites, Marion, Lamar, and Forest counties may make it up around freezing briefly on Saturday afternoon, but generally everybody's going to be starting from the teens and then dropping back down, or not even rising above freezing, and then dropping back down in the teens on Saturday night. So, yep, cold weather's not done. This will be our latest round, and it's looking pretty impressive again for the weekend.
Yeah, so is this a situation, just hearing you describe where we could expect the coldest temperatures, where it's going to be colder in the Delta, which is not at the top of the state from a northern perspective, than it is in those northern counties?
I was focusing on our county warning area, so it may even be a little bit colder if you're up toward Tupelo and whatnot. And hopefully by then, most of the ice that we have from the previous system will have melted. But some of that ice that's still lingering around is holding temperatures down, and if there's still ice around when this next system comes in, that's where your coldest temperatures will be, because it'll help hold things down during the day, especially on Saturday and whatnot.
Okay.
But like I said, if you're out and about on Saturday, it's impressive wind. We could see gusts 15 to 20 miles per hour, and wind chills are based on, like steady wind, so you could even see colder wind chills, especially where the wind is gusty on Saturday.
So is this just a function of another front being carried through the state at this point?
That's right, coming in on Friday night, and that's why I mentioned there's not much precipitation. This is like what we consider a dry, reinforcing cold front, because there's not a lot of precipitation. We're not going to see any freezing rain or any snow or sleet like we had with the other one. Like I did mention, there could be a few flurries in the north with this thing coming down because the cloud cover and the moisture associated with it. But other than that, pretty dry, but it'll be turning cold and windy. And like I said, it'll be the cold wind chills that'll be setting in for Friday night, Saturday night, making it dangerous cold.
So what do the models say after this weekend? Are we going to go in the other direction? What's in store?
Well, the other direction, I don't see us hitting the 70s anytime soon, but it'll be actually moderating. So we're looking for dry weather at least through Tuesday, moderating, but then there is a system that could bring rain chances Tuesday night into Wednesday. But the good news is, it'll be above freezing again on Tuesday night and Wednesday, and we're not expecting anything in the way of wintry precip. And it looks like the highs will be kind of closer to normal in the 50s on Wednesday, with our lower 60s down around the Highway 84 corridor.
So what about just the melting between, say, now and this next blast of cold air? Are we going to have temperatures and enough sunshine to do some melting to help out with the efforts to recover, and especially in the northern part of the state?
Yes, if you were to watch a satellite loop of the visible satellite imagery, you can actually watch the edges kind of retreat. The white snow and ice are actually diminishing. But in some of those areas that received significant, like more than 6 inches or something like that, that's what I'm saying. It may still be some spots that actually have some snow and ice. But over the next couple of days, we're expecting just a gradual warming trend. We're going to be in the 40s in the north, up there around Tupelo and whatnot, but we'll be in the 50s tomorrow, and we're actually going to see 50s today, in the south. But basically up there where the ice is still holding in, you can expect highs only in the 30s, and then around the Highway 82 corridor, making it into the mid-40s today. So a gradual warming trend going into the Friday, but again, by Friday night, that's when the next serious cold front will be coming down.
Gotcha. All right, Mike, we appreciate you calling in and giving us this report. Very helpful. Thanks a lot.
All right, thanks. Take care.
That's Mike Edmonston, senior meteorologist with the National Weather Service. So, I know that efforts are still underway. Rhino, I haven't gotten too many updates that I've seen, just a bunch of photos and images of the devastation, really, in particular in Oxford. Lots of photos of that area around. And, of course, latest on our network here, Rhino, we're making some progress. Our chief engineer, Houston McDavid, he's been all over this, providing fairly regular periodic status reports. Where do we stand now, the latest on that? I know we still got some stations, some towers without power. So,
yeah, the last update I have was Corinth coming back on the air, but that was yesterday.
Okay. Well, check it out, and folks, if you're able to listen to us and you got friends that are wondering where we are, encourage them to download our app, SuperTalk app, or you can log on to supertalk.fm, either way, and then C Spire TV channel 70. We're live streaming across all those platforms. while we get the on-air signal restored. So we appreciate Houston. So I got to add into the conversation something related to that, and that is I received an invitation Saturday to be part of another Radio Row event in Washington, this time at the United States Department of Treasury. And that is to promote the Trump accounts that were included in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The president is actually going to speak about those later today. A Radio Row event that we were blessed to be invited to attend. Unfortunately, we were unable to travel to Washington because we need Houston to deal with all the remote set configuration. Our engineer, who accompanied me last time we went, that was last April, to the Radio Row event at the Roosevelt Building, which is on the White House compound. But obviously, he's heads down trying to get our network back up, and that takes priority. So, unable to travel. However, I'm pleased to report that the Department of Treasury was kind enough to work with us, and it took a lot of communications to get this going. We've got Joseph Lavorgna on with us at 11:05. Mr. Lavorgna is the counselor to U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. And we'll dig into this launch of the Trump accounts with Mr. Lavorgna. So we're pleased to at least participate, albeit remotely, with some high-ranking level official in the Department of Treasury. In this case, Mr. Lavorgna. So just wanted to pass that on. That will be coming up in about 30 minutes. Looking forward to that discussion for sure. And then at 12:05 today, we've got the Mississippi State Senator, Daniel Sparks. We'll get an update from him. He, of course, chairs the Economic and Workforce Development Committees, vice chair of Judd B. in the Senate. He's also the man that's all over PERS, and so we'll get his take on the Tier 5 program that was implemented last year and just get updates from his committees and just the legislature in general. Right now, we're taking a break from the Element Wealth Studio. Stay with us. Coming right back.
From the Seabrook.
I'm ready. Ready here.
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
That would be Badfinger. The Straight Up album, 1972, I think. Fantastic work of art there. The boys from Wales, as I recall. So, lots of air travel problems still across the country. Travelers stranded for days after the storms. Looking at images right now on the screen in the studio. Man, incredible. All the airports, the concourse is just jam-packed with travelers, no place to go. Looking right now at a front loader that's dumping snow into a dump truck, that the snow that it has scraped off the runway. I mean, it's feet of it. It's incredible. So lots of delays. The East Coast now bracing for a nor'easter, I heard this morning, this weekend. Anytime they ascribe nor'easter to a storm, that's bad news, isn't it, Rhino? That means that you've got the old terrible winter weather coming through, so no doubt that will cause more cancellations and delays. So, man, stay safe out there, folks, for sure. Was unable to catch the interview, but Mayor Robin Tannehill of Oxford, Mississippi, on the morning show this morning. So finally, I guess Richard got power back, right? Because he's in Oxford and he's been unable to host the show without power. He's been a guest with Dave hosting the show. So all that stuff is moving for sure. I was talking earlier about this representative in Oklahoma that certainly played his cards right by making a big trade, dumping United Healthcare stock about 2 weeks before it plummeted. Likely had some information, I would think, about this policy, this kind of freezing Medicare reimbursement rates. And that's a problem. So, in addition, just thinking about abuse of power. How about this? There are 3 senators in the United States Senate that have earmarked money for their alma maters. It's so noble, Rhino, of course, right? To spend somebody else's money. Not your own, somebody else's. And don't forget, every dang dime that comes out of Washington, almost half of it is borrowed, tacking on to the debt. I'm sad to report that there are 3 senators in particular that brought home the bacon for their alma maters. Top of the list, Senator Mitch McConnell from the great Commonwealth of Kentucky. 7 earmarked requests at $164 million for the universities of Kentucky and Louisville. That's disgusting. And then a freshman member of the Senate, Senator Jim Justice from West Virginia, former governor of the Mountaineer State, 9 earmarks. He wasted no time, did he? $57.5 million for Marshall University. And then this one shouldn't shock us. Patty Murray, Isn't she something? How in the world has she been in the Senate so long, man? Let me ask you this. Ever seen her smile? You know how we like to talk about just liberals just in general are just miserable? Ever seen her smile?
Not since she had gray hair.
She took home the bacon to the tune of $50.9 million to Washington State University. Oh, look what I did for you. It's so noble. And then I saw Benny Thompson running around his district, bragging and boasting about money he's brought home within the district. That's what's sad, isn't it? I want to see, I'm okay if you want to boast about supporting good policy that drives the American economy, makes us safer, healthier, happier. But to run around and brag about, look, I brought this money home for you. Well, it's not yours. And all you did was cut a bunch of side deals behind closed doors, right? That's how it works. You know that. Man, it really is. I think this is the epitome of what aggravates people about our politics. I really do. Because we're not in the same position, obviously, they are, to achieve this. But it's not your money. But they don't treat it as if it is. And that's who we need in charge.
They don't even treat it like it's real money.
That's absolutely true.
They treat it like monopoly money.
Completely true. I just can't imagine.
And not even the real rules of monopoly, the house rules, where you can just keep making up money.
That is absolutely true. Man, oh man. On the C Spire text line, thoughts on the Omar incident? Charles in Matheson asks, wants to know if we think it's real or staged. I don't know. Charles, honestly. I mean, the video I saw certainly looked like folks were outraged and shocked and so forth. I don't know if that's all feigned or not, but it was just when she was calling for the abolishment of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and also calling for Secretary Noem to step down and resign or face impeachment, like immediately this incident occurs. So I don't really know. It's hard to tell. And I'm not sure if this agitator, 55-year-old, I'm not sure if I can pronounce her name right now, Anthony Kazmierzak, not immediately clear if he had an attorney yet. The county public defender's office would not comment. So she continued to speak for about 25 minutes after that. He was subdued, apprehended, escorted out of the room, and she, of course, being the brave soul that she is, and look, I'm not defending this incident. I don't agree with her on squat. I really don't. I don't even think she should be serving, honestly, in the United States House. It's disgusting to me that, frankly, she puts other peoples, other nations ahead of the one she represents. I don't think there's any question. And, of course, there's massive question marks around how did she get so rich? I mean, again, this is the thing that aggravates people about our politics. She said,
if the scuttlebutt's to be believed, she got rich because she was defrauding investors in a winery with her husband.
And it does appear to be the case. That winery wasn't worth squat a few years ago. Now,
like $15,000 to a few million.
Right.
And it never made a single ounce of wine.
I think like $11 million, if I'm not mistaken, it's worth. Like, what the heck? She said on her social media, I'm okay. I'm a survivor, so this small agitator isn't going to intimidate me from doing my work. I don't let bullies win. Grateful to the incredible constituents who rallied behind me, Minnesota Strong. Again, there's no defense for that. And I like I said, I don't agree with anything. I'd love the opportunity to interview her, to debate her on policy. I don't care about all her other personal crap, though I wouldn't have a problem asking her, how'd you get so rich? That's fair game. As far as I'm concerned, you're a public figure. You serve in the U.S. House. You have to file reports, financial statements, and disclosures with the clerk of the House. But
like I said earlier, if you don't, oh well.
Right. That's the part of the problem. That's absolutely part of the problem. And I got to tell you, and maybe some people will disagree, and that's fine with me, and think that this is an unfair juxtaposition. But when you hear the anti-school choice people, right now in the state of Mississippi say, well, we can't let money go to private schools. There's no accountability. Well, do we not have accountability for the public schools? Isn't that what their argument is? The public schools are required to adhere to all these standards and be accountable. Well, if that's the case, why do any of them fail? And when they fail, we talked about this last week, it seems to endure for a while. And then weren't we looking at one of the districts at Wilkinson County that was just overtaken by the Department of Ed, and they put somebody in that came from Holmes County, which was a failing school district? All I'm saying is, well, it's fine to say you have all these standards, but what does that really mean? I mean, what is it producing? I see that and think, okay, well, that must mean every single school's an A because we have standards. We don't let them go. I just don't feel like that's really making a difference. I believe that consumers are better regulators than government. Coming right back in the Element Well studio.
I'm here with
It's so awesome!
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Come on, let's get on with the show!
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. Middays from the Element Well studio again. We've got Joseph Lavorgna, counselor to the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, on our program in the next segment. We were unable to travel to Washington to be part of the Radio Row event. Look, that's a big honor for this show, for this network, and really sorry and disappointed it didn't work out. But understand, first obligation is to get this network across our state restored to normal operations. It just was a timing issue more than anything. You know, nobody knew, certainly they didn't when they scheduled it, that storms would be moving through that would cripple so much of the nation, including the state of Mississippi. But, you know, that kind of stuff is pretty hard to reschedule. And, you know, Rhino, this was the same thing last time, as you recall, when we traveled to Washington on Tuesday based on an invitation we received the prior Friday. And, by the way, that was Easter weekend. It was Good Friday. I remember vividly. And in this case, it was an invitation I got Saturday, literally during the middle of the day. I'm thinking it's probably for security purposes.
Partially.
The short time frame there. So work with the media folks at Treasury. Fantastic to work with, of course. So looking forward to that conversation.
It's also just partially because the federal government's really one of the few entities in the world that can just go,
completely agree.
Come here.
And let's be honest, we were able to do that last time. It was Good Friday. We were off. And I was in touch with and coordinating with our team here to pull that off. And fortunate that we did. An unforgettable experience. And, again, sorry this one didn't work out, but pleased that we've got a high-level official from the Department of Treasury coming on next who will talk about the Trump accounts. That's what the president is going to be promoting today in a speech I think is scheduled, if I'm not mistaken, here pretty soon. The Trump accounts, as you recall, a provision in the Working Families Tax Cuts Act, also known as the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, where any child born, I think I've got this right, January 1, 2025 to the end of 28, December 31st. I think that's the time frame. $1,000 upon an application from the parents would be deposited in that account, and then additional contributions can be made into it as well by businesses as well as individuals until the child reaches the age of 18, and then and any gain in the account is not subject to income tax. The contributions are not pre-tax, just to be clear, but the gains incurred, I should say accrued, in those accounts are not subject to income tax. When it's withdrawal for certain purposes as well, those withdrawals are not subject to federal income tax if they're withdrawn for other purposes. And the main withdrawals that are exempt would be for a house, right, down payment, and educational expenses.
I think it was housing, education, and health care.
Okay, health care was the other one. Thank you. Yeah. So looking forward to that conversation. This is fairly novel. It's quite interesting. Again, all the growth in the account, tax-free. Yeah, as U.S. citizens born between 2025 and 2028 must have a Social Security number. No income limit, by the way, so it's not limited to certain people. You know, it could have been extended and made permanent were it not for the filibuster. I just wanted to point that out again, that you're within the constraints of the rules, the reconciliation rules, and there's a bunch of math that figures into that on how far you can go. This is as far as they can go. Same with the deductibility for overtime and tips, and the additional standard deduction for seniors, the deductibility of automobile interest. Those are the key individual provisions that have an expiration date on them. So the immediate expensing for corporate investment, business investment, capital investment specifically, mainly plant and equipment, new factories and so forth, that is permanent. And I still believe that provision will drive more economic growth than anything else in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. I support the policies in the legislation, but that in particular is huge. It's why I think you're seeing our GDP really shoot up considerably and will continue to do so. Fox News, SuperTalk News coming up next, and then Mr. Lavorgna from the U.S. Treasury joins us. Stay with us.
Hour of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
And now, the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
That's what I like to listen to.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert. Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 2 of Middays from the Element Wealth Studio on this
Hump Day.
Still trying to get in touch with Mr. Lavorgna. We'll bring him in when we are connected up. So in the meantime, this is a big week for earnings. Earnings season underway today. After the bell, Microsoft, Meta, and Tesla will report. Tomorrow, it's Apple. And then next week, we'll see reports from Alphabet and Amazon. So there you go. The big tech companies are in a full view. The S&P broke a record, eclipsed 7,000 earlier today. Seeing where it is now. By the way, crude oil creeped up again, $62. So I would expect the cost at the pump to flip upward once again. The Dow up 27 points. The NASDAQ is now down. It's really flat today. Not much movement there. The 10-year, that's the let's see, note, the 10-year note. That's right. That ties in with your mortgages. It's up as well. Investors are scarfing up gold and silver. We noticed that yesterday. It's actually not a good sign for the economy. It typically means that they still fear inflation. It's a hedge against that. Typically, precious metals are. And we'll see. The president was in.
Silver's up 200% in the last 6 months. It's
bizarre. I mean, it really is. There are a lot of people that did quite well. I mean, they made retirement money, literally, on an investment in silver. Investors are watching Fed Chairman Jerome Powell for clues as to what he's going to do with interest rates. Most believe he'll leave them where they are this week, the Fed. And then, of course, we got 4 finalists now to succeed Mr. Powell at the Federal Reserve. And that has been published and reported on as well. We'll see certainly what happens there. One of those, of course, is Kevin Hassett, White House National Economic Council Director. He's probably the most visible because he conducts a lot of interviews with the media, given his role there in the White House. Kevin Warsh, a former Fed governor, Christopher Waller, a current Fed governor, Rick Reeder, an executive from BlackRock, are the other 3 finalists, if you will, in addition to Kevin Hassett, White House National Economic Council Director. I think all are qualified and would do a good job. I feel like the president is looking for somebody who has a more dovish stance on interest rates, monetary policy. He's been imploring Jerome Powell to cut the rates for quite some time. Most of the prognosticators believe that we're set for a couple of rate cuts this year, maybe as many as 3. The size of those cuts, still not totally clear. Could be quarter point. Could be a combination of quarter and half point cuts. But the president believes that inflation is in check and that the Fed has clearance, if you will, from a monetary policy perspective to cut the rates. But so far, Jerome Powell has been a bit intransigent, shall we say. And most of the governors have as well, except for a couple who on the dot plot have said, yeah, I think we need to cut rates. So it's kind of where we are in the finance world. Again, yesterday the president hyper-focused on the economy, this whole subject of affordability. He was in Iowa, in the center of the country, promoting, not only touting what he's accomplished thus far, but outlining his plans for the future from an economic perspective. He said that under my leadership, economic growth is exploding to numbers unheard of, and we're just getting started. He also warns, he's quite clear and concise about this, that if we don't keep the House and the Senate, at such time when that falls into the control of the Democrats, along with a Democrat, God forbid, in the White House, that he kind of issued a warning. All these benefits you're enjoying now from an economic perspective, primarily from tax reforms, you're going to lose because they would reverse it. I do believe that as well. So he referenced, of course, the tax on tips, overtime, those reforms there, Social Security, automobile interest deductibility. He said these are sick people that would want to reverse all that, right, and just allow those provisions to expire. What concerns me, Rhino, is that all this stuff, because it was necessary to fit it within the constraints of the rules in the Senate to pass the One Big Beautiful Bill Act through the reconciliation process, there is an expiration date. That means we're going to have rather robust debate. How about that in the House and Senate as to whether or not these should be extended. Now, you think you saw a bunch of chaos on the expiration of the enhanced subsidies in the Affordable Care Act, which led to a shutdown of the government for a couple of months? You know what how the saying goes, you ain't seen nothing yet. This would be monumental. I mean, this would be the mother of all controversial debates in the upper chamber there, I believe. And in the House as well, depending on who's in control. Man, this is going to be big. It's going to be huge. Also, I got to tell you that I've seen some information floating around on the old social media platform about the extension of the enhanced subsidies, which, again, was at the heart of the shutdown in the federal government. The House did, in fact, pass legislation with the aid of Republicans who reside in purple, squishy districts. 17, I think, joined in with members of the Democrats in the House to advance legislation that does, in fact, renew those enhanced subsidies, I believe, for a period of 3 years. You should know that the Republican delegation from Mississippi in the House voted nay on that particular bill. It's sitting in the U.S. Senate. Now, I've seen some information floating around indicating that Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith voted for this legislation. The truth is, there have been no votes on the legislation. So I don't know how she would vote. I haven't asked her, but she hasn't voted for it because it hasn't been put on the floor. It hasn't come out of committee for the members to vote on. I'm not sure it will, honestly. And Senator Thune, the leader of the Senate, he's been kind of mum on the whole issue. It's a thorny one at best. So, not sure where that's going at this point. Right now, what we have is a bill that passed the House and sitting in the Senate. In the meantime, folks are seeing the rather sharp increase of premiums and of course, the subsidies they receive commensurate with that, mainly affecting those whose income is above 400% of the federal poverty level, because the subsidies which were made available to those above 400% of the federal poverty level under the Biden era in the Inflation Reduction Act, those expired and reverted to pre-Inflation Reduction Act, the original Obamacare, which simply made those subsidies available to those whose income is up to 400%. So that is changed, and that's been reversed, except for this bill that's sitting in the Senate. So the people that are out there until this bill should become law, which I don't think it will, folks that are out there shopping in the marketplaces are experiencing sticker shock, no doubt. But, it's one of those things, Rhino, where it was fine before. You didn't hear a lot of belly aching about it. But you give somebody a benefit and then you take it away. It literally is like taking candy from a baby. I mean, you just get all sorts of outrage, feigned outrage, in my view. So, not sure where that's going, but it is true that enrollments are down fairly considerably. Maybe not quite to the extent the Democrats fear-mongered on us, but they're down because of the cost. People are just doing without. Coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
This program.
Gerard Gibert.
Here we go. This is huge. Huge news. Huge news. Huge.
You need to listen to this. Middays with Gerard. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
The blues has got a hold of me. I believe I'm getting dizzy. Help me out. I keep thinking about the night in Memphis.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth studio. Mr. Lavorgna from the U.S. Department of Treasury is rescheduled to join us in the next segment, right, Rhino? So we're good to go there. This whole thing with Omar, look, if it's true and it comes out that was staged, that's beyond the pale. That's maybe the most disgusting act I can think of committed by a member of Congress, where I happen to believe integrity is paramount, something sorely missing in many circles. So, but yeah, certainly it calls into question the fact that she didn't seem to be too terribly worried about it once she was sprayed with this unknown material, this unknown substance.
I mean, she walked towards the attacker. Yeah,
it's all weird. I mean, it really is. I get it. And hopefully there's some, again, investigation of that to determine what's up with this person that did it. And I don't put it by her because this is a person I do not believe loves America. It's mind-boggling to think that we have someone sitting in the United States House of Representatives. You talk about our founders turning over in their graves. I can't think of anything that would be the impetus for that more than someone elected by Americans to represent them in the halls of Congress who's made it pretty clear that she's not a big fan of this country. I just can't comprehend it.
In fact, her priority is her homeland.
She said it. Totally. And has laundered money. I'm convinced, been involved in a money laundering scheme to send money back to her homeland. So really is terrible. Liquid couldn't have been anything a little banana and rice couldn't fix. I could see it being staged the way she ran up on him. I mean, it could be. I don't know. I know. That's crazy.
No, the banana and rice thing just got me cracking up because there was somebody defending the Somali community that was, bless her heart, she was trying to talk about how Somali isn't just bananas and rice, and then she kind of floundered for 45 seconds, and then, well, it's kind of like bananas and rice.
That's right. On the C Spire text line, Luke in Oxford says, one of its many fatal flaws, ACA didn't allow private insurers to tier risk pools. This allowed premiums to be more affordable for the sick but fleeced the young and healthy. And that's something that Rhino has pointed out many times. I agree, actually. And so here's the problem, Luke, and not trying to be argumentative with you here. I'm agreeing with you. I think that if you told a lot of people today who oppose the ACA and would like to see it repealed, just follow me here, and the insurers return to that Wild West community rating, in which case women pay more, older people pay more, people who are sick pay more. It's not that you don't deny them for pre-existing, you just charge them more. And the young and healthy, if you can get them to sign up, pay a whole lot less. I don't think that'd be popular. I think a lot of these people that oppose it, and let's think about it. It's been around 15 years now. So folks have advanced in age, and if all of a sudden they got hit with, you're going to have to pay a whole lot more because you're older, I don't think that'd be popular. I'm not supporting the bill. Don't get me wrong. I'm just pointing out the reality of community. It's called community rating. You're familiar with it. So there's some limitations in the bill. You can't charge this old sick person more than X of a young healthy person. And remember, the idea was everybody's going to get insurance because if you don't, we're going to hit you with a big old fine. The theory was everybody, even the young and healthy that don't want it, are going to buy it. And so that mitigates the risk pool, essentially. The other thing, Luke, remember, there was these high-risk pools framework that was created as well, and it folded. It crashed. It was terribly conceived, and there was money for that. But it's still, Rhino, a pretty good idea to separate folks that are of higher risk into these high-risk pools to spread that risk so that the rest of us aren't paying for that. That's the model, but that whole thing fell apart. Before it ever got going, it fell apart. That's a major flaw, I think, in the design of the legislation. The truth is, United Healthcare, the biggest health insurer in the country, with 14% of the market, of the commercial market, announced their earnings. We talked about it yesterday. And their earnings were terrible. And the stock sold off big time. Their net profit for the last 3 years has declined precipitously. And I can recite the last 4 years. I just read their financial statements last night. Looking at 25, going back to 21. In 21, $23 billion. In 22, $21 billion. And I got it wrong. It's 22, 23. In 24, $14 billion. In 25, most recent report, 12. On revenue of $437. That's 3% net income. That's right in there with Kroger. That's grocery store margins. I'm not defending insurance companies. I'm just saying that even if they broke even, it's 3%. And I think we, as conservatives, have to make a decision. We don't want Medicare for all. We don't want government-controlled insurance for everybody. That's been the Democrats' dream for a long time. Senator Ted Kennedy, known as the Lion of the Senate, he advocated for that, as did Bill Clinton. Remember that? And then Hillary Care. And fortunately, that didn't come to pass. But we're going to have to make a decision. Either we want not-for-profit government-provided health care, or we want commercially provided health insurance, in which case they're going to have to make a profit. So what's the best? We should seek the best. If we want the latter, what's the best policy and regulatory environment to promote choice and competition? Two words that Barack Obama used over and over and over again when he was promoting and touting his health reform plans. My fear is that there are many on the right that are also mad about health insurance companies just making any profit. If it's $1, it's too much. Well, then you said you were against Medicare for all, so square that up for me. By the way, United Healthcare, last quarter, the fourth quarter of their calendar year, it ended 12/31. They did $110 billion of revenue. They made $10 million. They made less money than Ilhan Omar's worth, allegedly. So we've got to think of other solutions than that. Again, I'm not saying insurance companies are perfect. I've had my problems with it too, and everybody loves to hate them. What it seems like people want, listening to Congress, is we want zero-cost premiums and unlimited care. That's not going to happen. That's not feasible, practical. And if you talk to providers, and I have, Rhino, they'll tell you, yeah, I'd rather deal with Medicare and Medicaid because they pay without delay. And the commercial providers typically delay. Well, that's because Medicare and Medicaid have an unlimited supply of money. It's called sell more debt, Treasury Securities. That's why we're $38 trillion in debt. If Medicare and Medicaid were run more like a business, we probably wouldn't be $38 trillion in debt. They're a contributor to it. And I know folks are out there saying, well, I paid into Medicare. I understand. Me too. But it doesn't cover the outlays. What we paid in, sadly, doesn't cover the outlays. And so they're having to borrow money, essentially, is Medicare, from general fund revenues to make ends meet. Going down a rabbit hole, apologize for that. So, but hopefully that sheds a little light on what's going on in the health insurance industry right now. I'm with you. I want to see premiums go down. I want to see the cost of health care go down. But it's going to take more than just bringing in health insurance CEOs and castigating them on the Hill for political gain. Let's talk about some real actionable solutions. The president has put a plan out there. Some of that I think does make sense. Certainly transparency from insurers and healthcare providers absolutely makes a lot of sense. May not drive the cost down, but it enables you to make better decisions to drive your personal costs down. All right, Mr. Joseph Lavorgna, counselor to U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, is next.
From the Seabrook, Gerard Gibert. He keeps his classified documents right where they belong. Inside a Journey record jacket from the 1980s. Gerard Gibert, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Tim from Tupelo says, if I would have been sprayed with an unknown substance, I would have wanted to have been at least taken to the hospital to find out what it is. All seems staged to me. I wouldn't overestimate Representative Omar's intelligence, though. So that's in play here as well. It could be a situation where, to her, it's worth it to stand there at the podium and call for the resignation or the impeachment of Secretary Nome. That is a trade-off to this substance that was sprayed on or whatever harm that might do to her. I don't know. The whole thing's crazy to me, and we'll just keep keep an eye on it. So Mike in Richton says, I think most people are not against insurance companies making money because they're in business for profit. But when you make billions and billions of profit off the backs of people suffering because they automatically denied health care and their procedures, that's what we're against, those kind of profits. Yeah, I hear you. So, by law, they are required to pay out 85% in the large group market of premiums in claims. That they're forced by the federal government to do so. That's part of the Affordable Care Act. So remember, if we were to repeal the Affordable Care Act, they could go back to an era where they weren't bound by that medical loss ratio stipulation. So it is true that their in-network claim denial rate is about 25%, but their competition as well. Cigna, Aetna also have denials. All of them do. Most of them, however, are administrative errors, not because they say a person's sick and shouldn't be covered. The big one that I think needs some addressing is the prior authorization that comes up. There is a case where automated AI-powered algorithms can also be used to determine coverage, and there's some rules around the use of that as well. But they're still paying out overwhelmingly, about 98%. Looking at United Healthcare, their approval rate is about 98%, just looking at their officially published documents. And by the way, if they're falsifying that, well, then hang that on their auditor. I can't remember which one of the big four they use, but it's one of them. It's just highly unlikely that the auditor hasn't thoroughly examined and calculated those numbers. I guess the point I'm making is Medicare is a little, although they do, Rhino, do they not? They deny stuff all the time. I mean, it's not carte blanche. You don't
Medicare and Medicaid.
Medicare and Medicaid do. So it's not like they're any better than the commercial insurers. They may be less careful because they know they can go raid the taxpayers' money or go sell more T-bills at the Treasury window. It's a different model. So they're a little less careful in that respect. It's also true, and I know you worked in the industry some, there are also a lot of unnecessary doctoring that goes on, often for fear of liability. And so we order a battery of unnecessary tests. It happens.
That's being nice. There's a lot of overdoctoring that's done simply to cover unpaid expenses.
I get it, yes, because Medicare and Medicaid reimburse so low, and the uninsured population that doesn't pay them squat. They just got to eat it. You're right. So they pass that on to us in the form of premiums. It actually starts with, well, these providers keep sending us these bills, right, claims, and the insurers say, man, based on that, we got to go up on the premiums. And the claims are coming in even when they're for services not necessary. And the providers are doing that to make ends meet. In the case of Medicare and Medicaid, it's really a problem because they're frankly not as good. It's government. They're not as good at reviewing those and determining if they're legitimate. I actually believe, especially with Medicaid, because remember who Medicaid serves, they look the other way intentionally. Because they know if they started clamping down on those doctors, they'd say, okay, I'm out of the Medicaid program, right? It's already a loser for me, and now you're denying my Medicaid claims. I'm out of here. And that's a problem because then you got the poor people that have Medicaid as their health insurance that don't have any providers to take it. And that just puts more burden. Then they end up in the ER for free. It's a big mess is what it is. And, again, I'm not saying that insurance companies don't have some culpability here, that they could be better at as well. He said that 85% is easy to achieve when you're covering simple doctor visits, wellness visits, everyday small issues. I think you're missing a calculation here, Mike. I'm not going to keep going because it's 85% of premiums. Not 85% of claims, 85% of premium revenue. You take in $100, you got to pay 85 of it out in claims. It's not 85% of the number of claims submitted. That's not the calculation. That's not what's going on here. It's the amount you pay out of the claim revenue. So they want it to cover more than that. The revenue would have to go up, meaning your premiums go up. I believe that we're seeing a move in this country. I fear this even from the right to just move to government provided health care. I can see it. I can feel it bubbling up. We don't want the insurance companies to make money. We don't like the way they handle claims and all that kind of stuff. We're just going to pawn the whole thing off to the government and have Canadian-style health care. By the way, you saw the story about an individual who was euthanized, even though they didn't request it, in Canada where it's legal. Is that where we're headed? So we got to figure out some way to preserve, I believe, the commercial health insurance industry. And if you think there's not enough competition, the truth is there are 90 health insurance companies in this country that sell in the exchanges. That's not all of them. That's just the ones that sell in the exchanges. We have 5 in Mississippi. So you got plenty of choice. There was a while we only had 2 for the most part, and it was 2 that didn't have very robust networks. But now we have 5 that actually have pretty good networks. Randy in Starkville says, have you seen the video of Karen picking up a flashbang device? Tried to throw it back. You just can't fix stupid. I haven't seen that. You seen that? Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, it was at some memorial for the guy that got shot by Border Patrol agents or ICE or whoever it was. And, she rides around on the ground with something wrong with her hand. Didn't look like she was missing any fingers.
So Mike, I see your text, 85% of revenue is even easier. That's not how it works, my man. It's 85% of the total claim revenue. It doesn't matter what it's being paid out on. Now, you remember they got to pay expenses out of that. So they leave 15% of the top line revenue to pay expenses. That's why they don't make any money. That's why they made $10 million on $100 billion last quarter. That's why they made 12 on $440 billion. It's a $1.5 trillion industry, and the total net profit's about $40 billion. Just for perspective, Google made 30 last quarter. They made more in a quarter than the entire health insurance industry did in a year. But nobody's complaining about Google.
Well,
some.
Yeah. Bernie Sanders doesn't like it.
Because they make too much money. But do you pay Google anything?
No.
Me either. Do you pay for insurance?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's the point. You pay NVIDIA anything? Directly?
I mean, if you're buying a GPU.
But have you bought any GPUs? I know some people that have, that are setting up shop in their garages, in their houses, and forth, building their own large language models. That's fine. I think that's cool.
Or using it to mine Bitcoin.
And I'm not trying to be argumentative with Mike at all. Please excuse me if it sounds that way. I get it. And I think the fundamental problem is, Rhino, we pay insurance companies, right? If we were paying doctors directly, we'd hate them too.
It likely wouldn't cost as much either.
It probably wouldn't, right. But there'd be a lot of us that would be caught without the means to pay for necessary services, and that would put us all in a pickle. I'm sorry there, Mr. Gibert. You got to have $100,000 heart surgery. I don't have $100,000. I don't have any insurance. What happens now? We still do it. That's the problem right now. You still get that service whether you can pay for it or not, despite what the left tells you that, they're going to leave you in the street to die. That's what they want you to believe. And it just doesn't work. So those of us stiffs that pay for insurance, we're covering that. Make no mistake about it. We're going to step aside for a break. Coming right back, we've moved Mr. Lavorgna again. It's a dynamic schedule. Folks, stay with us. We still got him and Senator Sparks joining us in the next hour. Stay with us.
Volley up, covering the stories that matter most to Mississippians. Gerard Gibert, Middays with Gerard, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
So, when it comes to sports, one thing that really aggravates me is how politics, political messages, political narratives are injected into sporting events. Don't the NFL players have "choose love" on the back of their helmets or something like that?
I think there's like 4 or 5 different phrases they can choose from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. On the foam rubber that protrudes from the bottom of the back of their helmet. So, they got the tennis tournament, the Australian Open, being played.
Oh, yeah, on the clay, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a reporter, Owen Lewis, a freelancer. He's in Melbourne covering the first Grand Slam, quote, for a few outlets. And it turns out that this reporter, Owen Lewis, is anti-American. And so he does a little interviewing of the American athletes. And he asked them, well, what do you think about representing America during the Open, given the first year of the Trump administration? And fortunately, all but one pretty much shut him down, like, no comment. I'm here to play tennis. One kind of took the bait a little bit. It's Coco Gauff, who's been known for spouting statements that are somewhat political in nature. She said it's hard being a black woman in America. How do you say that, Rhino, when you're playing on a global stage in a tennis tournament? You're, literally among a handful of tennis players on the planet that get to that level. And deservingly, not taking anything away from her. But if it's so hard, how did you get there? I don't know. That just aggravates me. But I'm glad to see that this...
Because victimhood is a social currency.
It totally is.
And seemingly half the population only does transactions in that social currency.
It's disgusting. Many of them, these American players, a handful of them, were interviewed by this individual. And the good thing is they push back. And well, they should. And I caught audio from one of them yesterday, one of the females. I don't know which one. I didn't catch the introduction. Said, no, I'm proud to play for my country and to carry its flag over to Australia to represent the United States in this big tennis event. Of course.
Trump derangement syndrome is not just localized within the U.S. There are people around the world that hate his guts simply because they can't come up with an original thought. They simply exist to being spoon-fed what to think and what to believe.
You're totally right. So, no, it's not true, Mike. You didn't make $159 million. But I can tell you this. You're talking about Andrew Whitty, the CEO of United Healthcare. Check that again. But if you took all of his pay and you plowed that back into premiums, it'd save you a couple of bucks a year. It's not that much at the end of the day. How much should a person that runs a company with 500,000 employees make? What did we just talk about? Tucker?
His total compensation for 2024 was $26.3 million,
of which 2.4 was his base pay. Check it out. We have offensive linemen.
1.5 was his base pay.
Okay, well, I may be thinking about one of the other health insurance companies that I had for 2.4. You said 1.5. We have offensive linemen in the state playing at the college level that make more money than that. Not begrudging them of that. But I find that to be a hollow comparison, honestly. This is what Robert Reich does. This is what Bernie Sanders does. It's the CEOs That's just horse hockey. It amounts to nothing in the scheme of things when you look at the total pay. And again, what do we want to do? The government step in? Because here's the thing, and I warn this, you step in and start regulating top executive pay, you're opening up the door to regulate everybody's pay. Make no mistake. That is socialism on steroids. Let the market sort it out. You don't like the pay that the CEO receives? Don't buy their insurance. That's the way it ought to work. You don't want to support that? Guarantee you there's a lot of people listening to us, watching us, that use these tools that a lot of these wealthy people make every single day, and they're enriching them. That's what I jump on old Robert Reich on his social media about, because he jumps on all the likes of Bezos and Musk and Tim Cook at Apple and others. He jumps on them over their pay and say, okay, but you're making them richer by using their tools. Doesn't make any sense. Oh, man. Paul says he agrees. Many people make too much money. So what do you want to do? You want the government to step in and regulate it? I don't. That's the worst thing that could happen. It would affect your pay as well, Paul. You just got to be honest about it. We're going to step aside for a break. Coming right back after the news with Daniel Sparks.
Welcome to the show that challenges you to think deeply, and look beyond political posturing. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio on this Hump Day. It's our pleasure to welcome now Senator Daniel Sparks. He represents Mississippi's District 5, which incorporates Itawamba, Prentiss, and Tishomingo counties. Senator Sparks, good to see you, sir. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Gerard. Always good to be with you. Appreciate the invitation.
Congrats are in order to get things kicked off. You are a new father.
I am. We're very, very thankful to have Hudson home. And I will say this, I cannot say enough for the folks at UMMC and Children's. We spent about 7 days in the NICU, and I would say to the Manning, Sanderson, Van Devener, the Loggers Association, the Benson family, all the people that you see when you go into that facility, thank you. We toured 2 years ago, and I thought, what an amazing facility for people who are struggling with a newborn and all the issues, never dreaming that I would utilize that facility, but they were excellent. So
I too have had the privilege of touring it, and Dr. Keaton gave me a tour several years ago, and of course he knows every inch of that place, and I was blown away. Forever changed my life, honestly. Just the image of that just large room, as you know, filled with sick babies.
That's right.
And an army of doctors and nurses running around with smiles on their face and a spring in their step, taking care of these sick babies. World-class care.
110%. And not only are they taking care of those sick babies, they're taking care of the sick-hearted mamas and daddies.
Totally.
And one day I was walking back in. The doctor had already been by and given their report. And the nurse is usually updating the attending physician, on the details. And I went through that for, about 8 days. And as I walked by, she started and said, "This is day 83, doctor." And I walked down, I told my wife, I said, we're blessed. I mean, and I had some of the nurses tell me some children celebrate their first birthday in the NICU. They've never left. So the work that UMMC has done in healthcare across our state, but the work that they've done with the children's facility, and I think the same thing they're attempting to do with the cancer, getting the national designation with cancer, is that when we can have the treatment for our Mississippians here locally, it is a blessing. We have tremendous facilities at St. Jude. I mean, that is world renowned, and fortunately close to our door doorstep, and even with Lavorgna. And that's one of the things that we've got to work out with Medicaid reimbursement, because they're seeing Mississippi children. I realize that's across the state line, but there's some issues there, and I think Senator Blackwell the last few years has tried to remedy that, and we need to take care of the people that are taking care of our children. So I'm a big thank you to them, and we're excited.
Good that you talked about that. I didn't realize that. So everything sounds good now. You're home?
Yes, we are, and I got to feed this morning at 3:45. that lasted till about 4:15.
Did your daddy duty?
Yeah, 2 diaper changes, and back to sleep I went. So it's great.
All right. So you were telling us before we came online that your area, Belmont specifically, was spared somewhat.
We were right at the freeze line in South Tishomingo County, so the Belmont Golden area was pretty good shape. North of us, from Tishomingo, even Dennis on up, tremendous damage. The power cooperatives, and whether it's the TVA people, local emergency management, our supervisors, aldermen, the public works teams, they have been going for days, and they have gotten a lot of things put back together. But there's a tremendous amount of damage to the system. As you well know, we've had a lot of pine tree blight, so they're weak to start with, and then you put ice on top of them, and they've just taken power lines down,
no doubt.
Major utility lines. But TVA had kind of tried to keep me updated, and I've tried to communicate with local officials, but also not get in their way because they're busy, but they're doing good work, and hopefully we're close to getting past this. I do remember the 94 storm. Now, a big difference between this storm and the 94 storm is that we are more accustomed to looking at our cell phones and our digital media.
Totally true.
And so that's gone, or we rely on so much technology to run our households.
Yeah, that's right.
We don't have as many wood-burning stoves and heating elements and things like that. So I appreciate all the folks that are out there doing the work, and law enforcement, DOT, across the board. They, in the National Guard, I appreciate the governor responding and taking care of that. But we just we got a lot of work to do, and I'm thankful for the patience people are showing and the appreciation that they're showing.
So in your neck of the woods, Tippah County, not you don't represent it, but man, they're really struggling.
Just outside our district, Alcorn and Tippah lay next to us. Representative Steverson, I've talked with him, Senator Parks, and they're doing all they can. And I think Representative Steverson's probably been in driveways cutting trees out for people and trying to make it happen. But they really got hit hard. Normally, the weather patterns as they come through, and I remember as a kid being in school, there'd be a snow day, and we wouldn't get the snow. That weather pattern normally runs northeasterly, and DeSoto County would get hit and come across Marshall, Lafayette, Alcorn, Tippah, and northern Tishomingo. We would miss the snow a lot of times. So in this case, we did miss the ice. But yes, those counties have really taken a major hit. And then you look at the trees that are gone, and whether it's in the Grove or whether it's in downtown Iuka, there's some 100-plus-year-old trees that take a beating, and it's sad, but they're going to continue to plug along, and our people are resilient, and I'm quite certain our friends that are in the hunting community and what some folks would call a redneck have probably come into great resource to help their neighbors, because they will put the four-wheel drive in gear and go out and try to help their neighbors. That's one of the great things about that Northeast Mississippi corner.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the Cajun Navy has been on hand as well to help out. I know they've been in Oxford, and then I can't remember the name of it. The grill there on campus, Rebel. Can't remember the name of it, but nonetheless, the staff, they said, stayed overnight to cook for the folks, right?
And we've had several restaurants in the area and convenience stores cooking and saying, hey, look, we want to feed you, and maybe they can't even charge you because the systems are down, to run a tab. But that's what people are supposed to do. People are supposed to take care of one another. A lot of our churches, civic organizations have stepped up, and we're appreciative for all that. You just have the chance to show your Christianity. You
totally agree.
The chance to show being the hands and feet of Jesus and in times like this.
So Mississippians are generous for sure, and they want to help. Problem is the weather hinders them from really being active. It's
tough. 55, as you've documented, it's been so difficult to travel, and we had cars stranded last night, and we're not accustomed to driving in these conditions. So, the folks that are out helping, you want to make sure they don't need help themselves at some point down the road. So.
All right, let's turn our attention to your job down there under the dome. You guys have been gathering up. It's hard to believe you're in week 4.
We are, and this is committee, kind of getting to the committee deadline, I believe is on Tuesday, if I remember correctly. So all those bills that get dropped, they got to get out of committee in their originating house, and so that's the focus. We had committee meetings this morning. I'll go back for committee meetings this afternoon, and that's a good opportunity for somebody to present their bill and to have it vetted. I mean, members of the committee are going to ask those questions. I always encourage our constituents to watch. On the Senate side, most all those committee meetings are broadcast. They're archived. You can go back and watch it. If you get power up and you're bored because you can't go to work, you can watch the Mississippi legislature debate bills. But I think it's good discussions. And sometimes the discussions we have doesn't mean someone is against the concept or against the idea. But fortunately, people will put their experience at work to try to think of what's the unintended consequences, and you get better legislation. And then when it comes to the floor, maybe we've got the final product. So we don't have that on the floor as much.
Yeah, so let's turn our attention to perhaps the most controversial of all, and that's the school choice issue that you're well aware. The House passed legislation by the slimmest of margins and sent it down to the Senate, where I don't think there's been a whole lot of action on it to this point. Senator DeBar, who heads the Education Committee, of course, the Senate passed its own version and had some other public education-related legislation as well. Where do you see all this going at this point?
Well, of course, the bill that came down from the House obviously has a much later deadline because, they've cleared their deadline of getting it out of committee and getting it off the floor. So it's, it probably will not take focus until we finished our committee deadlines. But the good thing, and I think you point out, is that while they've chosen to do an omnibus style bill, the Senate has rolled out several individual bills that are components of HB2. And I know guys on the House side have worked really hard. They're trying to do what they believe is right. It was a very difficult vote on their end, as you said. It was the slimmest of margins. So, clearly, when you put everything in one package, it brings some headwinds. But the portability piece that passed out of the Senate is something that was key last year that was discussed. Financial literacy is actually my bill that they were brought through education. I think is of the utmost importance is that we are teaching people the ROI and the determination of whether they go to college, whether they go to a CTE program, and not wait till you get to a college course. Now, Senator Boyd's going to have a financial literacy for college, and I think you should have that as well. But at the K-12 level, especially in today's cybersecurity environment, that was one of the pieces we want taught is, everybody's doing this portal-driven or online-driven, is to teach them to be safe and secure. But we
hang on, we keep talking.
Okay.
Senator Daniel Sparks in the Element Wealth studio.
Before your
interrupt this program.
Gerard Gibert.
Here we go. This is huge news. Huge news. Huge.
You need to listen to this.
Middays with Gerard. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. We're visiting with Mississippi State Senator Daniel Sparks from Itawamba, Prentiss, and Tishomingo counties. All right, so you've been in session for a month. We were talking about kind of the distinctions between this approach to school choice, as it is called. You got a sweeping 400-plus page House bill. You got some individual bills. One of those is public school portability. So I wanted to ask you about that because Rhino and I both reviewed that legislation. It's not a long bill. This is from Senator DeBar. But it started out as really allowing virtually any student in a public school to transfer to another public school without the ability of their home school to veto that transfer. Right now, as you know, under state law, you got to get permission from both. They would still have to get approval from for enrollment from the receiving school, but the home school couldn't block it, couldn't stand in the way. But what we saw was an amendment that looks like that's now been restricted to 3 categories: students of administrators, certified administrators, what the language in the bill says, or teachers. Those students, children of those individuals, guardians or parents, could go to their school where they work. Students of military personnel, children, and then those that live more than 30 miles away from school. So it's not really universal open enrollment, if you will. It's more restrictive in nature. I'm not sure what precipitated that floor amendment.
And I don't know as far as the actual reasoning behind that. I do know that, from the standpoint of a teacher administrator, I've had issues even within my own district where a parent would be teaching at a particular school, but they live in a different school zone. And so I get the concept of that in the military.
Yeah, but I thought we already had that.
Well, not apparently, because I've had it in my district to where somebody couldn't go. But the portability piece and I think the veto power, all of that in concept works. The one thing, and I expressed, when we were having discussions about the bill amongst my colleagues, is that one of the things that often gets glossed over in a lot of policy is rural areas versus more urban areas.
Sure.
And I have a number of schools in my district that they're very small, and that's a local decision. That's a decision. We consolidated in 1991 in Tishomingo County and went from 4 to 2 schools, and so I lived through that as a junior, rising senior in high school. And of course, Belmont kept their school, and they built a new school at Tishomingo County, and the portability, in the 8th grade, you make a decision whether you want to go to Tisch County or whether you want to go to Belmont, and you can do that, already.
Okay. So they have an agreement for that?
Yes.
Doesn't matter where you live.
That's correct.
Just have to live in the county, I assume.
You do. And so, but once you make that decision, then it goes to eligibility. Because when you talk about these small rural communities, I met Tim Tebow the other day, and I actually, had this question to pass along to him. He was an exceptional star. I mean, he was beyond a star. And yet, in our rural communities, we have so many people that excel, whether it's academically, athletically, and they're part of that community. Mom and dad were part of that community. Their parents may have played ball there, and that is what those communities wrap themselves around in these small schools, and that hurts. You may say, hey, that's still best for the student if they want to transfer to another school, but it does have massive impact on that community. Is that child who's maybe mom, dad, and grandparents went to that school, maybe they were athletes. Because that's what I think some of the biggest blowback is with NIL in the college level. And we have bills this time to put NIL to high school level. We're dealing with difficult subject matter that is going to happen. Because I can tell you, particularly in girls softball, in about the 7th or 8th grade, some of those girls that pitch are excellent.
Yeah,
and
right.
I've seen it. I've seen it happen where people are trying to get people to transfer. So, the High School Activities Association governs a lot of that, and they're going to need to be aggressive in that regard, and I hope better than the NCAA because, they've just made a mess of college athletics.
So Senator DeBarr said that no way, no how would he support, and this has been his position, this is nothing new, the creation of these Magnolia student accounts that would allow a student in a public school to receive to have the state funding associated with a student to follow them to their school of choice. He said that he's not in support of that. It doesn't sound to me like HB2's got much of a chance as written in the Senate.
Well, when you send an omnibus bill, it could be amended and sent back. It could be, voted down. One of the things I would say about HB2 is, if there's a clean fiscal note, I would like to see it because it is a true cost. If you're talking about the $6,800 or so per student that would go with a student, then there's a cost to that. You could be looking at $300 to $400 million at full implementation.
If the student's currently not in a public school, you're absolutely correct.
And
if it's a public to public, it's a wash.
That's correct. And so that's a concern. They threw a PERS piece in there, and you've got people that are going to do exactly what they did in 99 and just gift a benefit and not tell us what it cost and pass it to the next generation. So while there's some well-intended, I think, good pieces of that bill, and again, I would dare say, and I've not sat down and run the numbers, but I would say there's a strong percentage of things that are in HB2 that are in individual bills or may come in individual bills from the Senate. So, the House has already supported those things, so I assume they would support it in the individual bill. But I've learned over the years, I like to send clean bills. I like to send single subject bills. We complain that D.C. does all of this omnibus business, and because it boxes in legislators. And I know that's a political tool, but, you ought to be able to vote straight up and down on things. And, we've sent a funding bill down that has $1 billion for PERS and over a 10-year period, and that's a clean bill, and that bill's been gone for 2.5 weeks now. There's nothing to do but pass that and send that to the governor and let us go ahead and have the actuaries factor that in. We did a Tier 5 COLA pre-funding, doing the exact opposite of what they did in 99, putting money away today for an expense tomorrow. There'd been some misinterpretation of Tier 5 that there was no COLA. There's no guaranteed COLA, but I can assure you, if this legislature funds one, and a future legislature can spend the money we put aside, they're going to do it because it's politically advantageous to them, and it's not going to cut into their budget. So
it's not guaranteed; it's discretionary, right?
Well, that's the way it's written. It's an ad hoc. The board would recommend, and the legislature would adopt a COLA annually. And by the way, Alabama does this and has done it for the last not hardly a decade, but they do it based on CPIU and all these different factors. I told the committee the other day, CPIU from 2000 to 2020 was 1.6%. So inflation was about 1.6%, and our COLA was 3%. So while that's a very nice benefit to our employees, and they bargained for it, so we owe it. It was different than what they did pre-99, which is the board actually had to vote on a COLA.
Yeah, it's really not, I don't think, accurate to call it a cost of living adjustment. It's really just an adjustment.
It is a 3%.
A guaranteed adjustment.
Compounded increase in your benefit. That's fair.
Yeah. Over 65 is compounded. If you're retired before then, it's on an annual basis. But at the end of the day, it's guaranteed, and it's really not tied to the CPI or the cost of living. It's not a cost of living adjustment. It really wasn't designed that way.
And it was a mistake. I mean, we were 90-something% funded in 99, and that legislature, it was an election year, by the way. That was the Ronnie Musgrove election year and for governor. And so, we don't have social media to go back and look at in 99, but I can assure you they went home and ran on the concept that we did something for our state employees. But what they also don't talk about is they also gave raises in the 80s that they didn't pay for. So, it's fine. We owe the money to the people in the system, and it's always been my belief morally and legally that we have an obligation to pay it. And we've taken the hard things to give reform, number one. Number two, we got to fund it. And we've done that. That bill is sitting down at the House. We also, raised the employer rate. It's going to be $186 million a year. The legislature, from 2024 to 2026, will have, if we implement the $1 billion of funding, we will have put $3 billion toward the PERS liability. Not to mention, we've been more involved with the PERS board. We've worked hand in hand with the PERS board to be fair about the actuarial assessments. We had a good discussion in Senator Harkin's committee last week. The actuaries in 2017 chose a 30-year payoff to 100%, and that's the number they keep running out and telling our constituents. And I try to remind people, when you say fund PERS, we are funding it, and we are stabilizing it, and we are going to make it solvent. But if you stick to something they did in 2017 and use a 2047 payoff target, when the actuaries and the board changed the rules, cutting the rate of return by 0.75 of a point, that's a $6 billion hit. Then that's not really fair. But we are doing our best to take care of people, and we're listening to our state employees and trying to figure out how we can plus it up and make it better. But what does it cost? Who's going to pay for it?
We should point out that you authored the bill that would transfer the $1 billion. It's $500 million sort of down payment immediately being transferred from the capital expense fund, which is really kind of a savings account. It's got $1.5 billion in it, and then the other $500 million, $50 million a year over 10 years for a total of $1 billion. I just want to get that out there.
Well, thank you.
I want you to stay around if you can.
Yeah, I'd love to.
I want to talk to you about your sort of outlook on our budget.
Sure.
We're coming right back with Senator Daniel Sparks in the Element Wealth studio.
From theSeabrook.com.
Middays with Gerard.
Good for America. Good for fans of justice and truth. Good for us.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
This is what we stand for.
Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you. Bermuda, Bahama, come on, pretty mama. Key Largo, Montego, baby, why don't we go? Jamaica, off the Florida Keys. There's a place called Kokomo. That's where you wanna go to get away from it all. Bodies in the sand, tropical drink melting in your hand. We'll be falling.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth studio. We're visiting with State Senator Daniel Sparks. Okay, so you and I kind of put myself in that category. Maybe I'm being a little unfair in that respect. But down there under the dome, there are a handful of people that really like to dig into the numbers. You're one of them. Senator Harkins is one of them. The Speaker's pretty good. Representative Lamar, who heads Ways and Means, he's good as well. Senator Hobson, of course, with appropriations. And I'm not trying to leave anybody out here. But you guys deal with this more than the others because that's your committees. And that's kind of your interface and your function in those chambers. So the income tax, which we're eliminating based on legislation over a period of time that was passed last year, which I support elimination of the income tax. I think that there are more efficient ways, shall we say, fair ways of raising revenue for the state. But I do have concerns about the fact that, unfortunately, with the error made with the decimal points, it's become infamous now, that we are running into a situation in the future where we maybe not will be in the appropriate financial condition to proceed with cuts once the triggers era term of the legislation kicks in, and that's in 2031, I believe, is when it would first be applied. That if, in fact, we met those triggers because of the decimal point error, we may be doing so without really having the state on sound financial footing to proceed with more tax cuts.
And I understand that that's a concern. And to be very fair, there's a difference between recurring revenues and recurring expenses. And as we were talking going out of the last break, the $1 billion to PERS, the lion's share of that is coming out of CapEx. We have $1.5 billion. Right now, we have.
I just want to point out that's cash in the bank.
That's right.
It's a savings account that's sitting there right now.
That's right. We're spending money that we have. We're not promising a lot of future revenue in that sense. But also, we're about $300 million or so up, I think, on the year. Not hardly $300 million. We budgeted about $200 million to $300 million less than expected revenues. We're 130 to 160 up. So my hope is this year, if we hold strong through the end of the fiscal year, the money that we send to PERS will literally be back in our account. So that's good. But you're 100% correct in saying that looking at future recurring expenses and recurring revenues, because when you do a teacher pay raise, that's recurring. When you do other things, that's recurring. I must like numbers because they actually added me to appropriations this year, so I'm on both finance and appropriations.
Oh, man.
So I get to hear it, and it really does help if you want to dig in and listen to folks. We have a great legislative budget office team that stay on top of it.
LBO.
But we're in a position where you're going to reduce the income tax revenue. There's no question about it. It's a policy I support. I do think that there's some misunderstandings, and last year I would say this, when they passed the bill with the supposed, quote, error, if the error is an error, then it's an error all the way through the bill. So I think at some point people are going to read the bill closely instead of just roll it, and they'll agree probably with what Senator Harkins and I both tried to say offline, is that if you're going to read it as an error, you have to read it consistent. So you may get cuts, but you may not get the cuts you think you're going to get. But the other thing that Senator Harkins did, everybody forgets about the first part of the trigger. The first part of the trigger requires a full rainy day fund.
You got to have some money in the bank.
You've got to have the full rainy day fund. Senator Hobson wants to raise that amount this year. We're one of the lowest percentage rainy day funds in the country. So you'll have to have the combination of a governor in the future who refuses to reach into the rainy day fund if we've had a terrible year like we've seen in years past, to institute that tax cut. So I'm not as concerned because I believe people will operate in a reasonable fashion. And if the rainy day fund's not full, you don't go to the decimal calculation.
Right.
So I do feel confident with that. We do have economic growth. You well understand that all economic growth does not equate to revenue for the general fund. And while we continue to have that growth, and it's wonderful, we do need to pay attention to that. But the other thing is we don't ever cut spending. If you look at the bills that are out there, even the Senate's $2,000 pay raise for K-12, community college, and IHL and teacher assistants, it literally is $160 million, and that will be every year. Medicaid is going to come in probably with a $350 to $400 million ask. And every agency that comes in, they say it's a modest increase. Well, when you add all those modest increases up, it's a big increase.
There goes the surplus there.
That's exactly right. So we're on top of that. And then the counties and cities, they want ERBR to be funded. The governor wants site development grants to be funded, and they've proven to be well worth their time. But with the gas tax adjustment, MDOT will have more money for maintenance. We've paid that out of general fund revenue, so there's a little offset there that's still not as much as they probably need, but those are good things. But yeah, math is undefeated, and you have to stay on top of it. But one of the things in legislation I've dropped this year that I hope helps deal with some of this stuff is you need to look at where we're wasting money in government. I've got a bill that will address pass-through NGO spending. We see the issue that we have with TANF. We see the issues that we're having in Minnesota. The auditor has spoken about this greatly. We have people who are gaming the system in the state and at the federal level, and legislators have got to dig in enough to be as smart as the people who are gaming the laws that we put together. And so I think that's an important piece. Also going to have a bill that extends the statute of limitations for program fraud from 5 to 10 years. I want people prosecuted that are stealing tax dollars, and that's important.
So I totally agree with you. My more radical position on this is let's just end all these grant programs. We don't seem to be able to administer them in a way that avoids and prevents all the waste, fraud, and abuse. But if we're not going to do that, I'll make a recommendation right here on the air. We don't need more laws. We don't even need more enforcement of the law. I think we're pretty good about that. What we need is to prevent. We're good at finding it out after the fact. We need to turn the auditor into the Maytag repairman, literally.
Yeah, I would like to.
Sure. It's technology. I've talked about it on the show. Only through using and applying novel technology. I don't care if it's video surveillance, which we should have in every single position across the state where the public interacts with a public sector entity, such as a county or a municipality or even a state agency or DPS, and there's money changing hands. We should have that under constant AI-powered video surveillance, just like a bank does.
Well, and I will say this, Senator Boyd brought her bill again this year, and we passed it out to have all of these boards, commissions, local units of government.
Saw that.
To have that broadcast. It needs to be, especially when you're talking about taxpayer dollars and impact. Those things are there, and I agree with you. Technology should help us, and I think it has helped the state auditor's office to be able to track things down that physically we used to have to catch with our eyes. But I think if you make the process, and I don't want to say more onerous, because people out there that are grant recipients will go, oh, my goodness, you're going to make it harder.
Yeah.
But if I make it transparent, the thief operates in the dark of night most effectively.
Sure.
Sunlight's the best disinfectant. So if the process is such that you're having to report and that is checkable and technology is improving, then we can do that because the people that are trying to do it right, I hate to add a burden to them, but they're the very reason the people that are not doing it right are the reason we have to do that. And we're not good about ending programs.
No.
We start a program, if it's my program, and that's one of the reasons.
Sacred cow.
That's right, 10-year statute of limitations, because if I'm the chief executive and I create a program, I'm not going to self-check myself.
Right.
I thought it was a great idea. I need to allow enough time that the next chief executive can come in. And it's what we're seeing at the federal level right now, that they can come in and go, my goodness, why are we doing this? But I do believe we have momentum today because people see the fraud that has been perpetrated with intentionality. We're not talking about people that tried their best and messed up.
That's right.
We're talking about, in this case, honestly, a group of people who have come into this country as refugees. And you go back to what Senator Ted Kennedy did in the 60s with immigration, changing the rules, and what we've done across the board. I can't get to the end of the line and just say, oh, they're doing that to get votes. But I can tell you this. They've created an environment where people will come in and say, these Americans are soft. We can scam them.
100%.
We're going to send the money back home. And then, whatever it is as far as what happened with Representative Omar yesterday. If that's a farce, I think she should be charged. But one of the things, if it's true, the guy that, came up and did what he did should be charged. But one of the things I'll say that the president has said repeatedly about her wealth, where she was negative in the hole when she got elected to Congress, now she's a multimillionaire. She has deflected and deflected. But you know what she's never done? She has never denied that she became a multimillionaire on a $174,000 salary. And we have people across the state that have that same issue.
In fact, her official filings with the clerk of the House reflect that sharp increase in her wealth. So she's not trying to deny it, but it's just, okay, where'd that come from?
Apparently we need to put her in charge of the budget office.
Exactly. Senator Daniel Sparks has been our guest in the Element Wealth studio. We're coming right back. Stay with us. We got one segment left. Appreciate it, Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Yeah, we're coming right back.
Covering the stories that matter most to Mississippians. Gerard Gibert. Middays with Gerard. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth studio. It is our pleasure to welcome now Mr. Joseph Lavorgna, the counselor to U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Mr. Lavorgna, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Big day as the president is promoting the Trump accounts. This was part of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, also known as the Working Families Tax Cuts Act. And he really wants to supercharge this and call attention to it so people get excited about it. It's really a neat program. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's a neat program. It's a cool program. It essentially is the government, all newborns during Mr. Trump's presidency, all newborns will get $1,000 seed capital, if you will.
Yeah.
Capital to invest in the growth and prosperity that the U.S. economy is bringing under President Trump, and that will continue in the decades ahead. And they're going to be directly connected to that as they're going to own a broad-based, effectively own the equity market, own the broad-based stock market. And the Trump accounts also then allow $5,000 additional monies to be paid in year one and years thereafter, so that nest egg, that money that's going to build wealth, can grow significantly by the time the child is 18, when they could first take it out, or even longer if they want to go to 28 or whenever.
Yeah, and so July 1 of this year, right, is when folks who were eligible that had a child with a Social Security number born during the applicable time period, that's effective January 1, 2025, there'll be a process, right, for them to go online and apply for these accounts.
Right, yes. It's very, the Treasury Department made it very simple. It's very straightforward. You can go to trumpaccounts.gov and sign up there. Or when you're filing your taxes, look for Form 4547. You can apply there, so you could sign up, and then The monies are going to be deposited around July 4th. I don't know if it's July 1 or July 4th, but right around that time period. But you could sign up for it now, and that's the key message. One of the key messages we've been getting out, and we've obviously gotten tremendous positive feedback across the political spectrum, across all swaths of industry. Many different companies and philanthropists are going to be partaking in this novel event, and it's going to democratize capitalism, and working class families are finally going to be able to participate in U.S. prosperity in a way that they have never done before.
Really, the other neat thing, of course, is that any growth that is accrued in those accounts is not subject to federal taxation. So the accounts can continue to grow as they are invested. And there's also some rules around that, isn't there, Joseph, about what those monies can be invested in?
Yeah, so yes, it's correct. Their monies are growing tax-free, which is important. So you're really getting the positive compounding effect. And the investment is going to be in a low-cost index fund that will mimic the broad performance of the stock market. So it's at minimal cost to the person investing in the program, and they're going to get exposure to all the great companies in the United States. So it's going to be done in the most effective, efficient way possible.
And then after the age of 18, the accounts function essentially like a traditional IRA. Some of those purposes, if the funds are used for some of those purposes that are delineated in the bill, in the law, then no taxation, right?
I believe so. I'm not exactly sure on that. That's a very good question. I would hope, though, that the money that's there, given, essentially if you fully fund it with $1,000 initial investment by the government, by the Trump administration, and then as you give your maximum $5,000 per annum, and then you apply historic returns, that money would be worth just under $304,000, just under $304,000. It's a little over $300,000. And then if you held it another 10 years, it could be worth almost $1.1 million.
Right.
So I would hope that people who have done really well would want to keep their money in so they could even grow their wealth even faster.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier about the number of companies who are stepping up. They can contribute $2,500 a year. It's not considered taxable compensation to their employees. I think Bank of America just announced this morning their program.
Yes, that's correct. That's exactly right. $2,500. It's not counted as employee taxable income. Bank of America, Uber, NVIDIA, Comcast. I'm not intentionally leaving anybody off. There's a tremendous amount of companies, and the feedback, as I said earlier, has been excellent. Everybody wants to partake in it. Look, it's an investment in the youth of America.
100%.
The future leaders, the future entrepreneurs, the future innovators. And what's important, as the Secretary himself has mentioned, is that almost 40% of people don't directly own stocks. They don't have any exposure to the stock market.
Right.
So this is a way to get working-class families who would not know or not have any ability or any exposure to the stock market to benefit from it, because we know the U.S. stock market is a phenomenal generator of wealth, and why not have everyday people benefit from that prosperity?
Love it. Mr. Joseph Lavorgna, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate you dialing into us today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. My pleasure.
You bet. Mr. Lavorgna is the counselor to the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent. Folks, we're out of time here today. Thanks so much for joining us. Back again tomorrow. Stay safe, and God bless everyone.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.